So we saw on LinkedIn and discussed it the other day of your High Rocks training that you were doing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So one question was, I feel like there's a correlation between leaders or folks that are working at their highest level and physical challenges that they undertake, whether that's Ironman, I've done a couple of those, whether that's High Rocks, whether that's, any one of those types of events. Do you see that correlation, and what does it mean for you? Like, why are you doing these types of things and putting yourself through that hardship and stress?
So that continuous improvement mindset that I talked about for leadership and expectation for staff and so on and so forth, I don't just preach it, I kind of believe it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I think really, if I'm being totally honest, it's more, I have this hypersensitivity to atrophy, right? It's like, if I'm not getting, it's like if I'm not getting stronger, I'm getting weaker. If I'm not getting smarter, I'm getting, dumber. If I'm not getting closer to the people that I care about, I'm getting further away. And so, I'm not saying it's particularly balanced, but I don't really know any other way. And I've had periods of time where I've leaned away from it and gained weight or slipped away from a close friend or whatever. I mean, it's not always perfect in that way, but that creates an urgency. It creates a desire to lean in, because the alternative is nothing is moving away.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's not really another choice.
Yeah.
And then you learn to love it. Right. And I think discipline is a differentiator, and if we live our lives with that discipline, not just work out with discipline or work with discipline or have a relationship, you got to do it
everything
across the board, right? Or at least aspire to.
Yeah.
So it's a goal, not a reality, but I'm trying. Yeah.
You're continuing to strive for that. Well, how do you do it all? I mean, we were talking earlier about travel and all of that. 4 kids. How do you balance it all and keep it going?
It depends who you talk to, but poorly, I think would be the answer. Sometimes I think the discipline thing is a big piece of it, right? So when I travel, I try and get some exercise in before work. When I'm at work, I try and be very present, and I'm there as long as I need to be. When I leave work, I try and focus on home and family, and you just compartmentalize. When I'm home, I have a different schedule than I do when I'm at work, because I live in Arizona, as we talked about, and primarily the company works on East Coast hours. So I get up earlier, and instead of going to the gym, I start my workday, but then I'm done. I can do it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So you find these compartments of time and prioritize it. But the other thing that I think is really important is you got to have your downtime. You got to have your de-stress. You got to have your, watch your TV shows or read your books, and it's not all going to be productive.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's segmentation of time. But I do some brain dead stuff too.
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
It's good for all of us, I think.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Was listening to a podcast this morning talking about, it was a sports podcast, but they said something that made me think of you. And the guy was talking about changing jobs, specifically within the head coaching space, but I'm going to apply it here. And he was saying, if you're not, sweating bullets, or you're not super nervous when you first start, a new position, it's like you're not challenging yourself. Now you have come up through some pretty large, complex organizations, but was there ever a moment, I don't know if it was, your current, getting hired as your current role at Northrop Grumman, or maybe it was back BAE, getting promoted through the Honeywell ranks. Did you ever have a moment where you're like, I don't want to say starstruck, but you were like, am I really, I'm really in charge of all of this?
I certainly felt it at Northrop Grumman. It's a huge organization with a big budget and a lot of people, and it's primarily insourced, so it's all like kind of in your face. As I mentioned earlier, I've always enjoyed a certain gratitude for the opportunity, whether it's my first project management job, or getting hired as a consultant, or leading a large organization. And so that's balanced that in a way. Maybe it happened independent of the size of the organization. So even for a larger organization, it didn't feel as crazy, because I just still had the gratitude, right?
Yeah.
So there is that. I do think there's there's a very natural curve to starting a new organization in terms of how we look at it and our perceptions and how we should approach things. And that is way heavy weighted on the early side of that as you learn and you meet and you try and understand and so on and so forth. And so, I've always taken that seriously. I would say though, you do get to a point in your career where you have at least the option to believe in yourself. And I think for a lot of early career folks I talk to, that imposter syndrome is a constant thing. I think for different genders approach stretching into roles differently. Generally, I'm not saying for every single human, but finding a way to believe in yourself does not mean that you won't work hard. It doesn't mean you don't have lots to learn, but it means you give yourself the grace to go through that process, right? Yep. And I think that's a thing going into a new job. It's always lots of work and there's always lots of opportunity, but I'm learning to give myself some grace in trying to work through that process, and that makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah,
so you're balancing that with urgency and expectations of yourself and from the organizations you work with. But I would encourage folks to believe in themselves a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice, like you said earlier, of taking your legs out from you is what success looks like. And it Ask Me Anything. You need to be comfortable with getting challenged, and that's where you grow and develop.